Ding, ding, ding. Hi, good evening, all, and welcome, welcome, and welcome. Okay, we have got the lovely Mark Memphis here with me. Thank you very much
Hello.
for everybody who was joining me just now with Susan Lee. That was good conversation. That was really, really, really good. But now I've got Mark Memphis,
All
and
downhill. All downhill now.
yeah, it all goes downhill now. It does.
Mm.
No, I'm only joking. I love having Mark on. Um, Mark, I'm going to talk tonight about letting go of the past.
Mm.
Mm. So lots of things, things happen in the past, like relationships, or we've fallen out with friends, or whatever we've done in the past. Some of us kind of like still live in the past, and we can't move on, and we can't ask for forgiveness.
Hmm.
Have, have you ever been there?
Yeah. I think the thing about the past, and I've heard it said, it's the past that defines you as a person. It's part of your journey, whether it's been good or whether it's been bad. And um, it's the whole thing about, moving on, really. I mean, it's it's a horrible thing to have, the past round your ankles, as it were, like you're trudging through some sort of a mire, and it's there, and you can't shake it off. Yeah, I've had many occasions in my life when I've just not been able to let go, and it's a toxic thing if it's something that's not a particularly healthy thing to hang on to. If you're just refusing to let it go, it can do you a lot of harm, really. So yeah.
Mm. Sometimes it's like relationships as well, isn't it?
Mm.
When we kind of like in a relationship, and all of a sudden, one partner's okay, then the next partner is saying, hang on for a second, this is not on, why are you leaving, what's happening here, and
Hmm.
then they're because they're afraid to let go, the past. Um, but it's like anything, whatever we do in life, I think sometimes it's so difficult that letting go of things that's happened to us, or the art or anything, can still be stuck inside us, that it would take us a long time to get over with. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, Perhaps you hang on to the past because it's just something that hasn't been resolved, and I would say that probably 8 or 9 times out of 10, it's impossible, you know,
Mm.
to resolve it. It's happened. Yeah. Uh, Just before I carry on, it looks like I've got a disco happening behind me. Can you see, like, is the picture getting brighter and darker?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing happening here. I think there must be some sort of an interference thing. So I just don't want people thinking I'm talking from the local Tiffany's night spot. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like I
I
say, I
think
think I
I
think it's because of the unresolved an unresolved thing.
yeah, I think guys, I think it's the actual the police. We did do a bank robbery the other day, so I think the police is outside his house trying to arrest
Mm.
him. No, I'm only joking. Don't take it to. No, but the trouble is, so have you ever been there where it could be like a friendship or a relationship where you know it's still stuck in the past, where that person, you try to kind of like sort it all out and everything, sort all your problems out, but that other person doesn't want to talk about it, and they're still in the past, and you want to move forward. It could be anything. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Are you asking me if I've been the person that's
Yeah,
stuck in the
yeah,
past?
yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. I have been like that, and I have been told many a time to let something go. I mean, it's not really been relationships that's been the thing that I'm holding on to. It's usually things that's happened. It's more to. I mean, for some reason, if I've had a bad experience working somewhere, I find it really hard to let that go, because that's something I could have had some, measure of control over, I suppose. But people, whether it's been relationships, marriages, friendships, if it's not worked out for whatever reason, either I've walked away or someone else has walked away. I've personally found that quite easy to deal with, really, because that's a two-way thing, really.
But it's so difficult, isn't it, when we got children involved and we got other people involved, and it that can be really, really hurtful, can it? You know
Definitely,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh, I do know what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And you're thinking, oh no, I remember kind of like me and my wife splitting up, my ex-partner splitting up,
Mm,
and we had our kids, and she wouldn't even let me kind of see the kids. She wouldn't even,
mm,
um, you know, and I had to go fight for them in court, go up for access and stuff. And and it's really draining. It's mentally draining, these things.
yeah.
And she had a bit of a, because she went off with my best friend.
Mm,
Um, I, and because something, I got angry and something happened, and naughty boy. And what happened was I kind of like, you know, for a while I had to kind of like forget about the past, but I couldn't because I was still hurt. Not because of the relationship, of her leaving me. Two things there. It was because of my kids.
mm,
I won't be able to see them for a while. And the other one was my best friend from, I've known from since 5 years old. Been having an affair with my wife, you know,
right, yeah.
and that's what really, really hurt me.
What aspect of the past was it you were holding on to? Was it like the good times you had with her, or was it
Oh, was it no good?
the
It was no
betrayal
good, mate.
aspect of it?
It was. I can tell you, it was a big mistake what I did.
Right. Okay.
You look at me and think, oh yeah, but okay, what did you marry her for? Well, back then, I married her because she got pregnant,
Hmm.
and in my family, it was like my mum and my dad were what you call old fashioned, say,
Hmm.
and I was brought up by that way by you know um, because I had sex with her, and she got pregnant and everything. I should kind of like be a man and kind of like actually marry her. And which okay, which I did, but I wish I didn't.
Hmm.
Because she was, but I'm not, but that was it. So it was just kind of like it was tough. It was tough, but I will tell you more about it when I get off because I don't
Right.
want.
Okay.
But it was really bad.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say here, we kind of like we can go through all these things where being art and from the past and everything. But the trouble is, as I'm saying now, is like me. It was like with dealing with the past. It was about my kids.
Mm.
They were my kids. I didn't want anybody to look after them or anything else like that. They were mine. And when I found out that they were going to change the surname, and put it into his surname, right? Then I flipped.
Mm.
And in the end, they couldn't do it anyway because I didn't give the not even by default. So,
Yeah.
but there you go. I at the end of the day, it was just. I think for me, I had to kind of say to myself, okay, Steve, let's let go of the past and let's move forward. And soon something happened one particular night. I was kind of thought, right, okay, now I did that, I can move on.
Yeah.
And that's what I did too.
Right.
And I took all my anger out on somebody, and that was it.
Right. Okay. Right. So I catch your drift.
But dealing with somebody, but see, the trouble is, I know that's not the way. But now I'll look at it and think, oh my goodness, that's not me. I wouldn't have done that ages. I wouldn't have done that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Like because of my belief and everything else like that. So, but the trouble is, back then it was like, I was brought up with, some people who were really rough. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
you just say bill or goose to them, and that'll
Yeah.
be it. But it was tough. It was tough. But how do you deal? How do you deal with kind of like, kind of like letting go of the problems that you've had in your life because you've probably been through quite a bit yourself.
Mm-hmm. Um. I mean, I'm not completely out of the woods with that whole thing. There are certain things which happened in the past which, as hard as I've tried, I just can't
Mm,
shake off. But what I have found to be a useful thing, um, again, we've spoken about counselling, and I held on to so much stuff from when I was a teenager. Things happened at school and at home, and it formed very unhealthy opinions
mm,
that within me that I very foolishly listened to and believed and accepted as the norm for life, which wasn't really the right thing to do. And I went for counselling, and I used to describe it as like an onion, and I was having to peel back layers to get to the center of the onion, and I had to go through so much peeling away. Um, and that actually did, because then what you do is, if you've got a good counsellor, they won't tell you what to do. The answer should really either be with you in the first place, or you'll find a way of,
mm,
of grabbing hold of the answer. And it was a
mm,
case of what would, I was like 40 when I was having this counselling, and it was, what would the 40-year-old Mark say to the 12-year-old Mark or the 15-year-old Mark? And and it was almost like I was able to rationalize what had happened, and then you kind of construct your life eventually back together, and you sort of resolve it. It's because that's possibly the only way that a deep rooted
mm.
holding on to the past. That's possibly the only way to do it. But as we go through life, things will happen, and like I say, it's a very toxic thing. Is a bad experience or a bad episode in your life to just
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
hold of. I think, like most things to do with anxiety and depression, is to try and focus on, it's happened, and focus on like the here and now and what you have.
yeah,
Don't dwell on what you're missing. Be pleased with the things you found.
yeah.
And that usually helps. But like I say, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I've got it sorted, because I haven't. There are still
Mm,
things that happened in the past which I just can't,
yeah,
which I can't let go of. I have associations with certain workplaces. I have certain associations with places I've lived, and people, as I've mentioned earlier. That's easier to deal with, because you can remove people from your life by
mm,
just not by just cutting yourself off. But places you can't necessarily do that, you know, even though you might not visit there anymore or you might not live there anymore. You know, the fact that that place is still ongoing. That sounds a little strange, does that? But
Well, you can always get the RA bomb hit, and then you'll be okay.
that creates a new set of problems, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's. I think the whole key to it, like I said at the start, is whether or not you've been able to resolve it. And like I say, you don't always have the power to resolve it. You wouldn't have, if you could have had your time again, you might not have been able to change it and to sort it out. And it really is a case of just let it go. But I've said this, I think I've said this a few times on previous episodes. Letting go, it's easier said than done.
It's very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the whole, like I said at the start as well, again, you know, the past does define you because it's part of your journey. The past has got you to where you are today. The past has got me to where I am today, and anyone else who's watching this or listening to this. And but I think it's just a case of focusing on things that really matter, because you can't change the past no matter how much you try.
No.
I mean, there's certain things.
Unless you've got a time machine.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, I genuinely think that you know, the benefit of hindsight and everything is a wonderful thing, and there's certain things you can go back and change. But I think a lot of it, like certainly with people, you know, if somebody has decided that they're going to, you know, sort of like sleep with your best friend behind your back, there's nothing that a time machine is going to do that's going to stop that. If it's something that you've done, you've reacted in a certain way, you know, but you're a human being at the end of the day, and you will respond accordingly, whether it's appropriate or not. But in that, you'll find yourself in a moment, and you'll do what you'll do. And if you provoked a time machine, you go back in time, you'd be provoked again, probably. I think it's just a case of I think it's just a case of not necessarily moving on, but just refocusing what you know what. Yeah.
If you did go back in time, what would you change?
In terms of
life,
what?
You know, your
my long life, age 52. Oh Lord, what would I change? It's difficult because I could say, well, I wouldn't. I would avoid the day I met my first wife, but if I did that, I wouldn't have my children. So if I had to go back in time and do that again, so my 3 children would be still at the end of the journey in the present day, I'd have to meet my first wife. So it's a bit of a difficult thing. I mean, there's some of the easy ones. It's like, oh, I wouldn't have worked there. I wouldn't have lived there. I wouldn't have made that decision. I mean, the things I've regretted and the things that that have done my head in and that have, you know, that have bogged me down. Like I said, there've been things that I can't control really, and I never had any control over them. But it's a bit of a curious one, really.
If you think about it, isn't it? What would you change, you know, if you went in the past?
But the thing is, you see, like the whole thing, like going back to my first wife, for example, again. If you're going to change it, there's going to be a consequence, and it might not necessarily be a positive consequence.
Well, there you go. But
because what you're doing is you're going to be fully aware that you've gone back in time, and you know, like Doctor Who or something, and you've changed the course of history. You know, in this make-believe scenario, you're changing history, so you are going to be at a point, or life is going to be at a point which is marginally better because you've gone back and you've changed a certain thing. But there's always going to be a consequence to that. That might mean, again, that certain people might not necessarily come into your life. Even the rubbish places I've worked, there's probably been some association with that, some person I've known or I've heard about something that's perhaps steered me towards a positive thing. It's a bit of a strange one, really. I think there'd always be a consequence.
How do you deal with that, Mark? How do you deal when someone tells you somebody about something? Like, if someone come up to you and said, right, don't have association with that person, he's a such and such or she's a such and such. How do you deal with that? Do you look on two sides of the story, or do you look on the one side of the story?
It depends what I'm pretty good at working out what somebody's motive is for saying that to me. Is it because that person has had a bad experience with the person that they're warning me against? But it all depends on really what they were saying. If they were saying that, that bloke that you go to the pub with, you do know that he only got out of prison last year. He was, he did 8 years for child sex crimes, what have you. Then obviously, yeah. If somebody says to me, "Oh, you don't know that person that you go to the pub with is a snake in the grass. He'll end up stabbing you in the back. He stabbed me in the back. He borrowed money off me. He never paid me back." And you were hearing this, this stream of negative stuff. Well, I would probably think to myself, well, that happened to you. It hasn't happened to me. Like I said, I think it would all depend on what the motive was. I say if it was something serious, like they've been in prison for something which was totally abhorrent, then yeah. But not on the say of somebody telling me, "Oh, you don't want to bother with them because of that." Because I'd eventually work that out myself, I think.
The trouble is, Steve, why I mentioned that for is because, it's like when people have done something in the past, like they could have gone to prison or they could have done something in the past, or they could have done something that somebody didn't like, say, right? And all of a sudden you meet somebody like in the butcher, say, and someone come up to you and say, "Do you know that Steve Beer, or do you know that Glenn, or whatever? Did you know about him? He did this and did that." And the trouble is, that was in the past, and they brought that up, and that's what I was talking about,
Yeah.
And the point about that is about leaving things in the past,
Yeah, but if somebody came up to me and says, "Oh, you talk to Steve Beer every Monday night on the internet. Do you know that he did this and he did that and all the rest of it?" Well, like I said, unless it was something really abhorrent, well, my view was, I think he's all right. He's not, it's not done me any harm.
Well, put it this way, I can tell you right now, and tell my listeners, I haven't done nothing that's untoward to anybody.
Yeah. All right. I was using that as a thing. Like if somebody came up to me and I just used you as an example of somebody.
I know.
Absolutely no inference there that there's, no, I wouldn't. I'd just question the other person's motive really for bringing that to my attention. What's with all of us, every single person watching this and listening to this has done something which has been quite out of order. And you may well have done it with the very best of intentions. It's not necessarily.
I'm going to share something with you, and I don't mind sharing it because I've been through it and it's gone now. I haven't done nothing wrong. I was on a documentary called Too Fat to Work. You've probably
Yeah,
seen it. You've probably heard about it,
I've heard about it. Yeah.
right? And what it was, I was on it, and they came along one day and said, "Would you like to be on a program?" I wasn't searching for it. This company contacted me, fitness company, and they said, "If you go on this program, what we'll do, we'll help you to lose all your weight and everything else again, and you'll be okay." Right? So I thought, right, okay. Me and my wife went on it. So we went on this fitness camp, lost loads and loads and loads of weight. Okay, and because um, I had a stroke at work, and I lost my job because of my stroke because I couldn't do anything.
Mm.
The papers have me down for, oh, here he is, benefit scrounger and all this lot. They
Mm.
don't know the full story about me. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So that was it. So next minute, I go to boot camp, loses all this weight. I was in the papers and everything. Bad publicity, all sorts. They were getting my ex girlfriends, everything, coming out of the woodwork, and they were getting some money for the stories. It made us out okay, bit of bit of a thing. But then gradually, at the end of everything, we were made into like not nasty people, but into like a celeb type thing. Do you get me? We were invited to go. I was invited to go on to Big Brother, and we were on This Morning. We did everything. But what I'm trying to say is a point behind this. It's a point where sometimes um, people will look at you right now and say, "But do you remember him in the past?" This is what
Mm.
people were telling you about what's happened to him in the past.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong what we did. It's just because I had a stroke, went to boot camp, I lost loads of weight. I think it was around
Yeah.
about 11 stone in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I came back, I had a heart attack and a couple more strokes. Right, so that's why I got problems with my speech and everything. But then
Yeah.
I started doing this. So what I'm trying to say is like your past, whatever you've done in your life in your past, shouldn't bother you now or anybody
No.
because you're living in the present. And today, when we move forward, should count. Let's get judged by what we do now
Mm-hmm.
and not in the past. That's what I thought.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, like for example, I've seen videos of you on YouTube. I've seen you on This Morning. There's even, you know, when I've looked for these shows that I've done with you on YouTube, and then other stuff comes up. I've seen like you on Jeremy Kyle and stuff like that. But what does that matter? Like, at the end of the day, if somebody was to say to me, "What do you think of Steve Beard?" I'd say he's an all right guy. Chat with him every week. Yeah, but he were on Jeremy Kyle. He did this. He were on This Morning. He did this. He were on. Oh, so what?
Mm.
You know. So I suppose possibly what we're trying to say there is, if people were to view anybody in the same way that I'm talking about you now, i.e., well, that was in your past. It's not interfering with my TV aerial. It's that was a terrible analogy, was that? But it's not, it's not rocking my boat. So why should it matter? So why should it matter to me? And why should it matter to you, Steve? Because of what's gone on. If we're talking about people judging us for our past,
Yeah.
I think and there's the old saying about let sleeping dogs lie and all the rest of it, and raking over old graves and all those sort of things, and they're not. The past is in the past. I mean, sometimes the past can, if you did something, i.e., if you jumped into what you thought was a deep reservoir and it wasn't, it was shallow, it was only 2 foot, and you end up with a broken back and you've got like a neck brace on for the rest of your life, and yeah, you're going to regret that. The past is going to be there kicking you up the backside every time you take breath because something's happened in the past and it's had a consequence, and it's, you know, but what we're talking about by and large, I think most of us, is experiences, and the experience, it's happened. The past can't hurt you, as they say. Well, the past can hurt you, but that's only if you choose to let it, if you choose to keep hold of it, because you've not only got a past, you've got a present, and fingers crossed, we've got a future.
And leave it to there. And leave it to that one. Leave it to there.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. That was really good. Thank you so much, Mark. That was really, really good. Don't forget, guys, get any problems, give us some messages. We'll be back next Monday. That was really enjoyable. You know, so what? What happened in the past stays in the past. At the end of the day, it's the present. Enjoy your life, what you got it, and at the end of the day, keep smiling and keep listening to Mark because he'll let you smile. See you later, Mark. Bye-bye.
See you later, Steve. Bye, everybody. Where's my hand? There it is. Bye.
Where's my hand?